This video teaches you how to have a pageant makeup look. I'm wearing one that's good for evening gown, onstage questions, swimsuit, anything in which you're going to be on stage under bright stage lights. Now, the biggest difference between pageant makeup and street, sort of civilian, pedestrian makeup is that that stuff is designed to have you look better up close, in person, in real life. Pageant makeup is designed to allow you to have a face on stage because some of those lights can be so bright, you'll be so washed out if you don't have enough makeup, which is why the driving philosophy is more, okay? More lipstick, double the lashes, more concealer, more contour, more. But you don't necessarily have to have more makeup. You don't have to own a ton of makeup. Contrary to what a lot of makeup companies are telling you, you don't need to buy the entire counter. You don't need to break the bank. So I'm gonna show you what I used. This is literally everything I used for this face. And I'm gonna show you how right now. The first thing you have to do is wash your face, get rid of all sunscreen, any oils. There's a natural layer of oil that your skin produces. You wanna wash that off and then pat dry. Then I would go with like some sort of moisturizer or sunscreen, which in this case, I'm using the Elta MD. I'm sitting in front of a window with lots of natural light. Having some sunscreen is a good idea. So this could be any moisturizer, but just something that gives your skin something to soak up right after washing. You wanna make sure that the ingredients of your moisturizer play well with your foundation though. There are some types of foundations and moisturizers that will cause something called pilling, which is when the products repel each other and therefore cause these little eraser shaving pieces to form on your skin. Whatever it is, just make sure you try it out so that on the day of the show, you're not freaking out because your base is falling apart. Your base is very important. I'm gonna start with a foundation. Now this foundation I put all over my face. I personally like to use my fingers because the heat from my fingers really lets everything melt into my skin nicely. It's worth noting that everyone has a different skin type too. I have very combination dry skin, so I love using a liquid foundation. Liquid foundations for me just give my skin something to really soak up. Now I put the foundation all over my face. I even do it over my lips too, and everywhere. Really want to work it up into your hairline too, and also down into your neck here. Also into the area between your ears. There's nothing worse than having like a line of foundation between your ear and your face. You really want to blend this in. So once that layer is done, you do it again. Another layer of foundation. Remember, on stage, lights are super bright, so you just want to have a really nice canvas. If you're using very high coverage foundation, you can probably skip this step, but the foundation I'm using is more on the thin side, so I like to do 2 layers. By the way, I'm clearly not a makeup artist, but this is just the way I do it. It's worked well for me. I've also seen some makeup artists do their eyeshadow first and then their foundation last because of the fallout from the eyeshadow. But I personally like doing a full-on base first. So I just prefer to add my eyeshadow little by little to reduce fallout. So after wiping it all on, you want to take a little bit more and just dab it in under your eyes, right here. Because this is a part of your face that a lot of light will be hitting. Right under your eyes, so your cheeks, your nose, and also your forehead. If this is a liquid foundation that dries quickly, you want to work quickly. And don't forget this part of your nose too, right underneath here. You don't want to have foundation everywhere and then just forget this part. So you gotta go like this. Cute, huh? The next step is to use concealer. I have specific acne scars on my face that I like to target. You're going to have a different constellation of scars on your face if you have any. I'm using the MAC Studio Fix concealer. This I just basically dab on any dark spots. So for me, that's one, that's a pimple, and that is something that I want to hide. And then I also want to do underneath my eyes too. Boom, boom, just like that with the doe foot applicator. And then I use my pinky finger, because this is a gentle finger, and I just sort of dab it in. I always like to choose concealers that are about 1 shade lighter because it really just creates this lifted look, sort of absorbs the dark circles. On stage, it really just repels light. After the foundation and the concealer are on my face, I just use a pressed powder of any sort. In this case, I'm using the MAC pressed powder, but there's a Coty Airspun one that's really cheap that gives you massive amounts. That stuff works great. Put this all over your face. So my base is pretty much set. it's time to add some color to my face. I'm gonna start with eyebrows, and I have a big jumbo eyebrow pencil here. There's so many different techniques to doing eyebrows. This is just something that I found works for me, and it's simple because it's just one tool, one pencil. Start from maybe about 2/3 through, and I just start adding the color very gently, like this, in little strokes, almost like you're painting. And don't be too heavy-handed because you can always add, it just becomes a little annoying to remove. And then I just pull it out like that. Now I'm gonna do the same on the other side, but starting from about 2/3 through, not the front. Don't start at the front, you wanna start around here. And the reason why is if you start from the front, it'll look really blocky. You want it to look very natural. So I always start around here and small incremental strokes. Be patient with this one. And see how my eyes are darting back and forth between my left eyebrow and my right one? I'm just constantly, checking on them to make sure that they match. If you say you're not an artist, but you can draw your own eyebrows, girl, you're an artist. Okay, so the basic shape is there. I just followed a lot of my own natural curve. And so what you do now is you basically do more. So I'm going to lengthen it even more. Small, light strokes that you can then build. And what I like to do is I like to take a Q-tip, and I like to basically bring the color to the front. This gives it a nice natural gradient. I personally have eyes that are pretty close set, so I'm very careful not to bring my eyebrows too far in. It helps create the illusion of having wider set eyes if my eyebrows start wider. And everyone's face is different. Your face is going to be different. There will be little tricks that you will develop over time as you get to know your face better. Next is eyeshadow. Start with a neutral or a light colored base, and then just go all over. You can see that the foundation has created some crease lines. You could use an eyeshadow base. Urban Decay has a really popular one, but I sometimes don't do it. I just use the foundation, and I take the white color and I basically blend it in with that pocket of foundation, and then that becomes the eyeshadow base. So just watch like this. So I take the light color, you put it all over your eye, all over both eyes. I like to do both eyes at the same time so that I don't have to wash my brush halfway through. Then after sort of a lightish color has been put on both eyes, you want to start with sort of a medium color like this one. And then just start at the outer corners, like right here. And you want to press the color into your eye. Don't necessarily like wipe it just yet, just press the color like this. What you do to one eye, you do the other. Okay, so now that you've pressed this color into your outer corners, creating kind of a C, take a clean blending brush and just start creating a gradient between the two colors. Now what's key about this blending brush is that you don't want this blending brush ever touching the color directly. This is just for blending. So after that, you're gonna go back to the same brush that you were using before, and you're gonna do it again, same color. Make sure not to bring this color too far in because it'll ruin the gradient if it all turns gray and brown. You wanna keep the inside corner light. Blending brush, blend again. Now at this time, what you could do is take another brush that's designed for like a darker color, use brown, and then put it in the outer corners. But do it sparingly. Just really stick to these outer corners. And what's next? The blending brush. Blend, 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 little circles. Start to see the smoky eye is taking shape. And the name of the game is literally just adding color gradually, blending it, adding more color, blending it, and making sure to keep all of the different colors like as distinct as possible in terms of where it is on your eye. So you want a lighter color on the inside, a medium color fading out, and then the darkest color on the outer corner. This just creates the illusion of dimension. So after blending, I'm gonna do it the darker color again. And see, because I'm adding a little bit of color each time, none of the fallout is actually down here. So it keeps the bottom part pretty clean. Now, if there's a color that you really like, or maybe the color of your evening gown, it's gotta be like a medium shade. It can't be super dark or super light, but you can add that color like right here. Let's say I have sort of a pink evening gown. I'll take the brush that I used to apply the earlier colors, and I will go right into this sort of pink, and I can put the pink like right here. Now, I'd advise against going like super matchy-matchy with your evening gown and your eyeshadow because that looks very 80s, but having a little hint of a color that's next to it on the color scale can be a nice compliment. The last thing is a little bit of dark on the corners, but this time you don't blend it out. You leave it there. You leave the deepest, darkest color on the outer corners. To finish off a smoky eye is to take a little bit of highlighter, the same highlighter that you would put underneath your eyebrows and on your cheeks, brush it right over the front. I'll also put a little bit of highlight right there, underneath my eyebrow, and tip of my nose. Next is eyeliner. Make sure you sharpen your eyeliner. I like using the MAC Definedly Black Pro Longwear eye pencil. It makes all the difference. The way I do my eyeliner is I use a pencil for the main line because it lets me get really into the upper waterline here. I like to close my eyes for this and then just push the pencil into the top. Close your eyes and just feel for it. This makes sure that there isn't this awkward line of white between your eyeliner and then your eyeball. You want it like as dark as possible to get into the upper waterline. That way it's really, really black. Just close your eyes, stick the pencil in there, feel around for it, and just cover it with the pigment. Once that's done, it's time to use liquid eyeliner for that cat eye. You want to use a waterproof eyeliner. And all I do is I just pick up where I left off, right here, like this. I've watched that scene in Mulan a million times. If she can do it, so can you. As you're doing your makeup, you just want to keep checking in on yourself and looking at your face as a whole. Is there anything that is off? Anything that needs more blending? For instance, I just looked in the mirror and I noticed that there's kind of a harsh line between this eyeshadow and the rest of sort of this area of my face. This one's blended a little bit better, but in order to get rid of this line, I'm taking this blending brush and I'm just going to sort of soften that out. That way it doesn't look like so much of a chunky line. And to match this, I'm just gonna bring this out a little bit. Better. So now it's time for the bottom part of your eyes. I'm using this like light colored crayon. You can use white if you'd like. White is a lot more stark, perfect for stage, but in this case, I'm using one that's a little bit more flesh toned. So after that waterline is lined, you can use eyeshadow and sort of a thin angled brush, but I have this like eyeshadow stick that's around the same shade as the eyeshadows that I used, and I'm just gonna go about 2/3 underneath my eye, right here. But because my eyes are more close set, I'm really careful not to bring too much color to the inside of my eye. That makes my eyes look a little bit more narrow, a little bit smaller. So for me, I do 2/3 in. For you, if you have really wide set eyes, you could probably bring the color all the way in. It's like architecture. It just depends on the structure of your face. Makeup can be used to balance your face out. After that is my liquid eyeliner. And I draw a very thin line underneath the waterline, but very thin, just like this. The outside, about 2/3 in. Same thing on the other side. If you have mascara, now would be a good time to do a little bit of mascara on the bottom as well as on the top because we are getting ready for eyelashes. I like to use 2 layers of lashes. Rather than going with one really thick, dramatic set, I like going with 2 sets that are wispier. It just looks so much more natural and they're more comfortable to wear. 2 sets just like this. My favorite type of eyelash glue isn't even eyelash glue. It's super hair bond glue. And I'm putting a link to that video right now as to why this is my favorite glue. It just dries so easily, it's very tacky, and it is cheap. I mean, this thing was like $175. Doing my first set. So the first set is on. Next, I'm gonna put on the second set, but I'm going to put them on slightly further towards the outside. This will just give your eyes that natural flare. So So at this point, you just sort of let it dry and then go over it with liquid eyeliner. As you're waiting for your lashes to dry, you can use your fingers and just lift them gently, because then they'll dry in sort of a lifted position. So my eyes are done. It's time to do contouring. I like to use this Tarte bronzer, but you can use anything that's a deep color. You can even use brown eyeshadow if you want. I'm using like a pointed blush brush in this case, but if you actually press down on the fibers, by squeezing the brush like this, you're giving yourself a much thinner line, and it gives you just a lot more control. And you want to do a line from underneath your cheekbones to your ears. So like if this is my cheekbone, I want to go from here to my ears. You can also afford to get a lot deeper further back. So if you have a darker brown, you can even do the darker brown back here. Or you can start with little circles from your ear and then slowly bringing it front. What's left on your brush? You can then do little circles in your hairline up here. Now don't be afraid to go pretty dark here for the contour. It's time for blush. I'm using this MAC blush that I've had forever in Mocha. I honestly just use the same blush brush, but here I do it right on the apples of my cheeks. So sort of where the contour ended. So right here. Little light circles, little light circles. So you went from brown to a pink. But if you are going on stage, don't be afraid to really use even more blush than I am using right now. So just as long as you blend it in nicely. Highlighter, you can do some highlighter. Be very, very gentle with it though, because too much will make you look sweaty. It's right over the tops of your cheeks. Okay, just a little bit here. And you're almost done except for lips. Lip liner is your friend. Okay, lip liner. Love lip liner. My favorite lip liners are all from MAC. 3 types of lip liners that I always have at all times. They are kind of different shades of the same type of color, but I really like them. You want to really line your lips first with the darkest color that you have outside of your natural lip line. Something you can also do is instead of just using lip liner for the liner, you can just fill in your lips with the liner. The formula that's used for lip liners tends to be a little bit more long lasting. It's like the original matte. That's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna fill it in with lip liner, but I'm gonna use a different color just so you can see. Okay, so I just used another lip liner as the actual color on my lips. So no one says you have to use lipstick. I like using lip liner because the formulas tend to be a bit on the drier side, making it very matte and very long lasting. So then after I use the lip liner, I then top it off with a gloss or something that has a little bit of moisture. And there you go. Does anyone have a pageant I can go compete in? I hope the tips that you learned in this video were helpful in teaching you how to create your best pageant makeup look. It is super smart for you to be learning how to do your own. Don't leave anything to chance. The makeup artists backstage are not always good, and you need to know your face best. Don't just watch this video, watch other videos too, and pick up techniques along the way and adjust them to your face, because your beautiful face is like no one else's, and the more you get to know it, the better you can learn to adjust techniques to work for you. Okay, well, please give this video a like, subscribe, and leave a comment so that I can say hi. See you next time. Bye. Please also watch this video and this video if you want more. Or you can subscribe.